Hi Claudia, Karen here with your video assessment with your beautiful Ottb and your daughter. And I'm just going to, before I watch the video, I just wanted to go over your post so we know what we're talking about and what we're wanting to address in the video assessment. So when you posted in the group, you mentioned your daughter's Ottb has been a bit sore in his SI area and croup. Today was his second chiro appointment and she has given us some stretches, etc. to help, but he definitely needs to build top line. He has been found a little hollow in the back with his head up. So you've asked first, what are some exercises and techniques I can teach her to do to help him lower his head carriage and get onto the bit better so he isn't hollowing his back. And then secondly, any supplements, protein I can add to his feed that helps build muscle. So I did mention some protein and some supplements in the post, and with his building his top line, like exercises and his head up, is what we're going to talk about in this video. So you did, as I requested, posted a video, and this gives me much more of an idea of what's happening. Now, I just wanted to go through, and once you posted the video, you said here is her trotting, so your daughter trotting. So you mentioned that she needs leg strength and she fidgets with her hands. So you're going to work all summer long on leg strength, both yourself and your daughter, and with lots of walking and trotting, and I'd love her to start working with him and engaging his hind end, etc. We have a dressage clinic coming up, so that will help a lot, but that will only be here and there through the summer. Okie dokie. Let's have a look. And then I know we were talking through Messenger, so I just wanted to go into Messenger. And I just got a little bit of history of him from you. You purchased him back in February this year, so you haven't had him too long. His last race was well over a year ago, so he's had plenty of letdown time. And you're still trying to pack on the groceries with him. And you have him on Cosequin to help his joints. He sees a chiro routinely, and you purchased from a trainer who put 60 days in, and he was going well for her. So I just would like to teach her the basics to help her and him together. Okay. So what we're going to look at, so what your questions are is that you want to build top line, you want to have him working more forward, more engaged behind and with a lower head carriage, so basically working up over the back and into the bridle in what we call on the bit. And also your daughter, so just looking at some tips on how to help with her posture with her lower legs and her hands. So let's go through and watch the video, and we'll watch it through first. So here is your daughter and your Ottb. Now you can sort of see, as I'm watching it here, I can see that he would be a little bit, does look a little bit maybe sore behind. His posture is saying that in itself. He's sort of looking like he probably doesn't want to engage his hind end, and that would be because he's feeling sore. It's really good that you're having regular chiro treatments with him, so that's fantastic. And it's really good that you've got him on the Cosequin. We can talk about that. There is some other joint supplements that I would recommend over Cosequin, but we can discuss that. I really love green-lipped muscle. It's called Techniflex. That's one of my favorites. I'm not sure if you have it available where you are, but we can discuss other joint supplements if you're finding Cosequin is not working. But let's just have a look here. So let's go back. So you can see, just going around here, your daughter He has his head up and he's looking very tight and stiff behind. So he's definitely not stepping under and having the energy go up over his back into his bridle. Now, whether it's he's getting sore because he's going around with a hollow back and a high head carriage, or he's going around with a high head carriage because he's a little bit sore. But what you're wanting to do, so we can see here again his high head carriage, and you can see how as he's going around, he's looking very jarry behind and not comfortable really. Doesn't look comfortable at all. So I think that's some of the pain that you're saying he's feeling. I would first of all check saddle fit. We can talk about that, but we always want to make sure, eliminate any pain reasons. We know that he's a little bit sore in his sacroiliac and croup from the chiropractor's visits. Now, you want to make sure that the saddle fits. That's number one, because that's going to cause a horse to hollow their back if they have a badly fitting saddle, or even if it's slightly putting pressure somewhere. So number one, make sure the saddle fits. No pressure points at all. So I'd have that professionally fitted if you haven't already. We can talk about that more. And addressing any pain which you're doing, so his sacroiliac area. I don't know if you've had any x-rays. Now, if he doesn't, you can also, it's not a bad idea to actually often get them x-rayed, checking for kissing spine. He could have some kissing spine, which is making him go around in a high head carriage and hollow back. Or it's a habit that he's got, and it's a bit of a catch-22, because when they're going around in an unhealthy frame, they're going to get sore. But if they're sore, they're going to want to go around an unhealthy frame. So the first thing is to eliminate any pain reasons, which is what you're doing. What I would do is maybe even consider having him x-rayed, checking for kissing spine if you haven't already. I don't know. I don't think you have. I think it's chiros, the chiropractic treatment. But I would highly recommend at some stage, if he's not improving, or if you wanted to do it earlier, sooner than later, just having an x-ray for kissing spine, and even the cervical vertebrae as well. But we can talk about that. But let's look at the position. So as he's going around, what we're wanting to do is get him to have a lower head carriage and step more underneath him. Now, this is a process. Getting them to lower their head and step underneath and over the back is a process of working through what's called the basic foundations. So having your horse very light to the stop and go leg aids, so leg aids, so your leg aids asking him to go forward. Watching in the video here, he looks like a nice forward horse, even though he's looking a little bit sore here. He looks like he's fairly forward to the leg. And that's really good. What we want to do is get him to respond to the light leg aid if he doesn't already, and also slow to the rein aids. So working on slowing his trot, back to walk and up into trot again. So transitions from walk to trot, trot to walk, asking him to slow from a light rein aid response, like rein aid, I should say, and asking him to go from a light leg aid. Once you've got that, so let's just go back here. So what I would do is ask him for a faster trot here, and then ask him to slow down. So maybe one side of the arena, make the trot faster, and coming up on the long side, you can slow him down with the rein aid. So asking him to slow by the reins and asking him to go forward by the legs. And teaching him to respond to a light leg aid. So we do that by going a little light nudge first with the legs. If he doesn't respond, a firmer nudge, and then release the pressure as soon as he increases his speed. So they're transitions. So transitions within the gait, so faster trot, slower trot, and also transitions from one gait to the other, from walk to trot. And what that's doing is teaching him to respond to the go aid, which is your leg aid response, to a nice light response, and teaching him to slow. And you want him nice and fluid, so little light leg aid and he goes, increases his speed and length of stride, and light rein aid and he'll slow back. So you actually have them quite adjustable. So when you've got your horse going forward to a light leg aid and slowing to a light rein aid, you can then start looking at turning. Now this is where this turning is going to be able to give you the opportunity to teach him to lower his head. So you'll notice as you're going around, as your daughter is going around here, that he's not bending and flexing correctly. So let's have a look here. So he's going around here, and as she's coming around, see how he's looking out? So you can see here how his head is looking out. Okay, so we know that he's not bending through his rib cage and flexing. So his head, you want his head actually to be straight in line with his shoulders. So see how his head is looking out, but even though he's turned around to the right, his head is looking out to the left, so he's not bending and flexing correctly. Now this is going to cause he's using his body. So see how here, even though your daughter is riding him around to the right, his body is actually turning out, so he's got his head and neck pointing out to the outside, and he's falling in on his right shoulder and his right, so his offside foreleg. That's one that's going to cause him to be uncomfortable, and it's going to exacerbate any pain or even cause pain because he's not using his body correctly, if this makes sense. So you can see that. Well, let's just go back here. We'll go back here a little bit. Let's just watch this again. So your daughter's riding him around here, and she's coming around, and see how she's coming around here. She's not asking him to bend and turn. He's basically not turning. So this is called this is the turn aid. So we have our go aid, our stop aid, which is the reins. Go aid is our legs. Now our turn aid is the reins. And you'll see here that he's not turning into the right as he's going around to the right. He's actually out to the left. And the same here. So see how your daughter's coming around on the track here, and she's turning around to the right, but his whole shoulders and his head's out to the left. Now this is going to start to create some pain and discomfort in his body. So it could be the reason for his sacroiliac pain. It's definitely not going to help. Whether there's other reasons, like I said, does he have kissing spine? But regardless, this you don't know really. But even horses that do have kissing spine, if you have surgery or if you don't have surgery, rehabilitation is all about working them in the correct frame. So what we need to do here to help him lower his head is to be able to teach him to turn and bend correctly. And once your daughter knows how to turn him correctly, this is in itself is going to have him lower his head, because when a horse turns correctly, they have to lower their head to be able to turn correctly, if that makes sense. So let's just see how she's coming around here, and his head is completely turned out to the outside. Your daughter's looking around to the right, so she's got her eye in the correct way, but his head is out this way, his neck's bent out that way, his shoulders are here. So you can see how he's not using his body in a healthy posture, and this is going to cause pain. And it's also going to create wear and tear on the joints as well. He's putting some wear and tear. As he's coming around here, as he's turning around to the right, he's putting more weight on his right inside leg. When he was further back here, as he was looking out to the outside. And once again here, you can see how he's coming around, but his head's out here. and his neck's facing out this way. So instead, what we want is his head to be in a straight line with his shoulders. So if you can see my cursor, here is his shoulders. So we want to actually ask, so your daughter here needs to ask with some inside rein. But when we use the inside rein, we also need to be able to move his inside foreleg. Now, I won't go into too much with this video here, because it'll be too long, because we can explain how to correctly teach the turn, which then creates correct bend in another video. We just want to look at why there's a possibility of him being in pain and why he's going around with his head up as well. So when he's not turning and bending correctly, he's going with his head up, and him not turning and bending correctly is going to be part of the problem. Once he turns and bends correctly, this in itself is going to have him lower his head. And once again, going around here. Now, once again, see how your daughter's coming around here, and he's going around. So see how she's coming around to the right, but his whole body is actually, his whole body is heading out to these riders here, even though your daughter is riding him around to the right. So see how he's still looking out that way. It's a bit like he's going around a bit like a motorbike, if you know what I mean, and falling in. So he's falling in on his inside shoulder, which means that he's actually putting more weight on his inside shoulder and his inside foreleg as he's looking out in the opposite direction. Okay, so we can see what's happening here. He's going around in an unhealthy posture. Now, this is very common. I mean, there's, we all sort of start off here with off the track thoroughbred. Well, thoroughbred racehorses tend to work in an unhealthy posture. Now, I know you mentioned that the trainer did some work with him for 60 days. 60 days isn't a lot of time to retrain an off-the-track thoroughbred, teaching them to use their body in a healthy way. They're very used to using their body in an unhealthy way in racing, and it takes a lot longer than 60 days to retrain them to be able to retrain physically the muscles that start to change the shape and that, but also to retrain them mentally, so they're learning a new way to be able to move their body. So what I would suggest is, we'll just go back. So what I would suggest is go back. So I retrain using equitation science principles, and what we do is we go back to what's called the basing foundation. So we want to train our horse to stop and go lightly to the light leg aid, going forward and stopping to the right rein aid, so that they're very adjustable. So here, for instance, as your daughter's riding him around, she could increase his trot, make him go faster, and then slow him down with the rein aids for 10 strides, and then increase his trot again, and then slow him down. And we want to make sure that he's responding to the light little leg aid nudge, and he's slowing down with the rein aid. And once we've got that, then we need to work on turn. Now, the turn is, I'll briefly just mention it, but what we want to do with turn, once we've got them going forward nice and lightly, let's go back here, for instance. The turn, I love to do zigzags, and I've got some videos that I upload that's teaching how to do turn. But here, for instance, what we would want to be doing, is as he's coming around to the right here, we would teach him to, you would have your daughter open her inside rein out, sort of a little bit up and out, and ask him to turn his nose and his neck towards the center and then slightly to the inside. So instead of having his head out here, with her inside rein, I always do a little bit of an upward and outward action with the rein, teaching your horse to turn his nose and his neck in, firstly straight, so it's actually in line with his shoulders. And then the rein aid also, what it does is it's connected to his right shoulder. So as he's coming around here, See how his head's out here. So if your daughter actually opens her inside rein and asks him to look straight first, so he's not looking out, and then asking him to look into the inside towards the grass. But when she does that, she also, what we want to do is train him to turn. So a turn is actually stepping out and to the side with the inside shoulder. So if you're turning right, you want your horse to step forward and out with their right front foreleg and their shoulder. If you're turning left, you open up your left rein and you have your horse turn left by opening up by stepping out and to the side with their left shoulder. And that, so here as she's coming around, so see here, what we would do instead, she's got him forward, is she would keep her right rein next to his shoulder, next to his neck, I should say. She needs to open up her inside rein and teach him to turn his nose a little bit towards the inside, first straight, as I said, because we want his nose sort of parallel with his chest. That line that goes down the chest, you want his nose and his head to be in line so that he's not bent one way or the other way. And then as she's coming around here, instead of looking out, she's asking him to look in. And that rein aid, not only is it asking him to look in, but it's actually a signal for his inside shoulder to step out towards the inside. So that means, and the inside foreleg. So that means that he's not, see how he's sort of falling in as he's coming around? He's falling in. See how, we'll go here. This is a really good example. See how he's looking out and he's sort of falling in on this inside shoulder. And see, that's going to put a lot of strain on his sacroiliac and croup area. And he's hollowing his back. Now, there's no way while he's bent like this. So once again, we're talking about wanting him to engage his hind end, work up over the back and accept the bit. Now, while he's bent like this, he physically cannot have those hind legs step up underneath him. He can't allow the energy to come up over his back and into the bridle, because it's like that. When he's not straight, he's not going to physically be able to reach down into the bridle and work over his back. So while he's going around bent incorrectly, it's virtually impossible for him to engage his hind end or work up over the back. So the only way for him to work up over the back is, first of all, we need to straighten him. We need to get him to have his head in line with his chest, and then to be able to teach him to turn right, turn left. Now, one of the exercises I love to do this is zigzags, so your daughter can be going straight and then opening up the outside rein or opening up the right rein, asking him to step forward and out with his right foreleg, opening up the left rein, stepping forward and out with his left foreleg, like you're doing little zigzags. And that's that you do that in walk first and then in trot. Now, I've got some videos that I'll find that I can upload to show you. But can you see, until you get him to turn and bend correctly, he's physically not able to work up over the back. So having them working, engaging their hind end and working up over their back where they then can stretch into the bridle is, it's basically a symptom and a result or a reward by having your horse going forward and slowing to the aids and also bending and turning and bending correctly. And when your horse is straight and able to turn correctly, then you will be able to, naturally they're going to start to lower their head, because a horse cannot turn and bend correctly with their head up in the air like this. So once you bring I hope you can see my cursor. So if your daughter actually opens up her inside rein here and asks his head to come into the center, and then she opens it up even further until she feels a give in his mouth, and you teach him. So you teach him to step out and out with his inside hind leg and shoulder. I teach this in hand on the ground first, and then I do it under saddle. So it's teaching the turn. So this is called the turn response. And teaching the turn is what is going to help you have him lower his head and go around in a more healthy frame. So you can see here it's going to be physically impossible for him to step his hind legs up over the back. If you can see my cursor, he needs to be able to step his hind legs up over the back. Then it comes underneath the saddle, the energy travels up into his neck and then down into his head. Now this bend to the outside like this is actually blocking the energy through his body so that he physically can't step under with his hind legs while he's bent like this. So you need to come back to walk and then straighten him up, doing zigzags, teaching him to turn and bend correctly, and then you can actually ask, he'll be able to lower his head. So he physically can't lower his head when he's going around bent to the outside like this. So let's have a look here. See how once again bent to the outside. So what we want to do is, if we were coming around the corner here, your daughter would just for instance, keep riding straight, but then what she would do is keep her outside rein just next to his neck and you would have already taught him that the inside rein, when it opens up, it opens out, means that you teach him to step out with his inside foreleg and inside shoulder when the inside rein opens out, and then you teach him to ask for flexion with his nose as well. I teach the shoulder out first, and then as it becomes more lighter, as the response becomes lighter, then I ask for some flexion and bend. I hope this makes sense. And see, once again, he's heading out this way, where instead we would want his body sort of to be following around on this track. So see, we would want him, ideally he should be actually not having his shoulder out here, but he should have shoulder here, sort of bent a little bit like a banana. So you want his body to be following the track that he's following, if you know what I mean. And once again, see how your daughter's turning here, but it's like a bit of a bike turn. So see how you can see here he's falling right in on his shoulders. His hind legs are actually falling in. Okay, so his hind legs are actually on the inside track. His shoulders are on the outside track. And it's a bit like a yielding with his hindquarters here, but he's actually not carrying his shoulders. So you can see how he's putting all this weight down on his inside foreleg. Can you see it? Sort of inside foreleg is right underneath him, and that's putting a lot of strain down through his shoulder and onto that joint. And it's going to start to cause muscle tightness and pain. And once again, so what we would want to see instead is a nice bend. We want to see his head over here following the track. So your daughter would open her inside rein right here, and he would until she has him looking a little bit into the inside, and you would have trained that inside rein aid to also coincide with his inside foreleg stepping forward and out. Once again, I can show you videos doing this, but I'm just wanting to show this video explaining why he's going up, around and hollow, and how this posture is going to exasperate any soreness, if not create it in the first place. And I'm sure you can sort of see why that is now after we've gone through this. So you can see once again, even though he's going to be going around to the right in one moment, he's facing out to the left. Okay, so we know we need to work on, just check his stop and go. Okay, making sure that he's stopping and going forward with the rein and leg aids nice and lightly. And then the number one next step is to teach him to turn and bend. Okay, and we can talk about that. And that's how you're going to get him to lower his head, which he's then going to physically be able to step underneath, engage his hind legs, and come up over his back. Once again, making sure that his saddle fits. Now, because he's going around like this, because we mentioned too, you said your daughter's lower legs are unsteady and she's weak in her legs. Now, if we have a look here, let me just see. Him not bending correctly, so him sort of being a bit hollow, is also probably making your daughter feel a little bit unstable. But you can see, I'll try and get a better one, but you can see just in this little picture here, she looks like she's in like a chair, what they call a chair seat. So her leg is forward. Let me see if I can find, we'll go back to the beginning, hey. Okay, she's a little bit better there. So see how she's sort of like, she's got her head and shoulders in line with her knee and her heel. And then you're coming back. So see here, I'll see if I can get a... So her lower leg is more forward than her hip, which is going to put her out of balance. So let's just have a look here. Okay, so here we go. This is a really good shot here. Now, it's not so much that your daughter, from what I can see, I don't know, is weak in her lower leg, but she's going to struggle with her position because you can see here that her lower leg is in front of her hip. See, if I got a line and drew a line down from her ear, her shoulder, see the cursor, hip, and I go right down here. See where her heel is? It's all the way over here. We want her heel to be underneath her bottom. And I always say to my students, when imagine that if you're sitting on the horse and I just said, clicked my fingers and the horse disappeared, would you land on your feet? Or would you land on your bottom, or would you land on your face? So if you can imagine, I took away your horse here, your Ottb. I don't know if I got his name, but your daughter would land on her bottom. Can you see here? And so that is what's called a bit of a chair seat. That's also going to not help his soreness because it's putting more weight into the back end of the saddle and more weight onto his, it's actually distributing weight towards his sacroiliac and lumbar area. Because your daughter is not, she's not basically carrying her, she's not balanced, okay? So she's hitting the saddle with more weight in her bum, and that's going to go down into his back. When she's in balance, she's a much easier weight for him to carry, even though she's only a light girl. When any rider's not in balance, it's going to be a lot harder for the horse to carry, and it's going to put the horse out of balance. So her position here in this chair seat is also going to stop him from being able to engage his back. So once again, engaging his back means he can step underneath with his hindquarters. That in itself puts the energy up over the back, under the saddle, under the rider's body, up over the wither, down and into the bridle. Now, if there's anything that's prohibiting that energy, them from stepping underneath the back, like not bending and correcting, as I said, he can't step underneath his hind legs when his body is bent incorrectly. So his shoulders are bent to the outside. He can't physically do it. He's also going to be affected too if the rider is out of balance and the weight's coming down on his back. That's actually going to put a block in the horse being able to lift their back. So when horses are coming up over the back and accepting the bridle, that their back actually lifts. Now, if the rider's weight is unbalanced, the horse can't lift his back. And that could be happening here as well. So it's your daughter actually looks like she's got a nice little position. It's just we need to get her back more in balance. And I've got some exercises, and I've got a good video as well, which will really help her, a YouTube video. So I'll share that with you, some exercises to strengthen up her position. So it's all about core stability. So what we want to do is get your daughter's lower leg back underneath her hip so that she's more of in a standing sort of squatting type of position, with the weight going down through her feet. So once again, can you see here the typical, remember when Pony Club, ear, shoulder, hip and heel? It's still today, ear, shoulder, draw the line down through the hip and down through the heel. So you want your daughter's lower leg and heel to be back underneath her bottom, and that's going to make her feel a lot more stable in the saddle. And it's also going to help her hands become steady, because when she's out of balance like this, she's going to be using the reins to try and get some balance. So you can see here, once again, as she's coming around, see how her lower leg is forward. So we want to be able to get her lower leg underneath her hip. And that's going to be able to create more of an independent position. And once again, her lower leg looks, her lower legs looks, it doesn't look wobbly or weak. It just looks, once again, let's go back here. It just looks like she's, a lot of tightness through the hips cause the leg to be in front like this. So, and also down through the pelvis and that. So exercises that can release, release the muscles all through the pelvis are really good, allowing the leg to hang nice and loose. So a good exercise is to be able to just let your stirrups hang, let your legs hang down before you put your feet in the stirrups, even at a standstill. And just allow all the muscles and all the muscles through the hips and the pelvis to relax and release, and feeling your legs fall out of the hip sockets. And then you bring your legs underneath you. I've got a video, but yeah, thinking of that ear, shoulder, hip and heel line. And imagine if I took the horse away, you would land on your feet. Now you can see here she's in a bit of a skiing position, and this is because her lower legs are forward. She's going to start to use the reins to balance herself. So firstly, we want to get her lower leg to come back underneath her hips, and then we can start to work on her hands. So her hands are moving up and down a little bit. They're not too bad there. Okay, I think her leg, because she's out of balance with her body, it's helping there. But what we want to do is, once we've got her lower leg underneath her, then what we can do is get her to think of having her hands down a little bit lower. I like to always think of my hands down near the horse's withers, not so much up in the air. Keeping them more down lower to the withers and together to down lower on the withers and closer together. So that's what I would suggest if I was teaching your daughter in a lesson. Let's just have a quick look at the here. Okay, so see how they're sort of up? I would actually have her lower her hands down a little bit, and think of her opening and closing her elbows instead of her hands going up and down. Her hands can sit down closer to his mane, and the elbows open and close. But we don't want to work on I would be working on the legs. Firstly, she's better there with her hands. See how she's lowered her hands down there? Let's have a quick look here. So she's got them, and see how they're up here? Let's have a quick look. So they're up, and then she comes down, and then she lowers them down here, which is better. Okay, so see how she brings them a little bit lower, and they're more stable coming down around here. Okay, and then she starts to bring them up again. See how they're a bit up and out and open? So bringing them down and lower down towards his wither. But I think as she works on her lower legs, she's going to be able to free her shoulders up more. I don't want to give you too much in this video to work on. But I hope this helps. Claudia, let me know. So to follow up with this video, let's learn how to teach him to turn correctly. And also a video to teach your daughter exercises to be able to help improve her lower leg and release the muscles around her pelvis. So I'll leave it there because this is about a 40-minute video. I don't want it to overwhelm you too much. Let me know how you go with what I've mentioned here, and we'll discuss further. Okay, bye.